key question that foregrounds this presentation today is that can researchers use AI effectively without then becoming indistinguishable from AI, right? And more often than not, what we have seen over the years is that you'd submit work, right? And the first thing that your reviewer say or your supervisor says is that, oh no, your work reads like AI, right? Now the question that I normally ask is that does the grammar reads like AI, or does the argument reads like an AI argument? And is there an intellectual voice that is maintained when you read? Because often the reviewers or the supervisors or the lecturers, they then tend to confuse or to conflict between syntax, the construction of sentences in a paper or in an assignment, to the argument, right? Because what most of us are accustomed to is we are accustomed to reviewing, examining how sentences are constructed and how a student has constructed their sentence, which is not what academic integrity or intellectual positioning is, right? So today we're going to be discussing those thoughts and those ideas and look at how best we can assist each other in maintaining the academic voice. All right. So why this workshop is important is because the emerging challenge of AI, right, is because AI can now do a lot of things that would otherwise have done for ourselves prior to AI, right? And this involves your generation of literature reviews, your research summaries, your discussion sections, your theoretical explanations, and what the problem then is that we we have AI that writes it more poorly than anything else, right? But the problem is not that AI writes poorly. The problem then is that AI often writes in a generic, predictable, and intellectually neutral style, right? It's a good writer in terms of your sentence construction, your prose, the how work the clean is, your punctuations, and that it can produce a polished work for you, right? But the key risk is that researchers may then unconsciously lose their voice, right? You have the potential to lose your perspectives, right? You don't have a perspective in the work that you've produced, and we cannot pick up your scholarly identity. How do you position yourself as a scholar when we read your work, right? When you read your line of work that you've produced over a period of time, right? Now there's a fragmentation in terms of your identity. Why? Because you are fronting AI then to do your work, and less of you is being realized and noticed in that process. So another risk that researchers may also encounter is that your intellectual contribution into the board of knowledge may be lost because you having AI develop your arguments, and those arguments may not be maybe generic and predictable, and they are somewhat neutral in their construction, right? So the core argument then is that the future challenge is not learning how to write with AI, but it is learning how to remain visible in your writing when you are using AI to write, right? So that's what is important. How visible are you in the work that you're doing? and how then do you remain relevant in the work that you're doing. So, but before we get into the gist of what we're going to be talking about today, I think that we need to have a key understanding of a foreground or a background understanding of what is academic voice, right? Academic voice is more, I push that academic, right, is more than just your writing style, right? I do have a writing style. I know um, a day before yesterday, somebody sent me a paper to review. Right, they sent me a paper to review, and because I've been reading a lot of work, right, the moment I uh, gazed on that paper, right, on that manuscript, I just picked up the person who wrote the manuscript, right? And I said to them, I cannot review this manuscript because already I know who the person is. I've been reading their work a lot, right? So in a group of work of authors, contributors to a book chapter, right? Then they're circulating the chapters. The moment I just started reading the introduction and the argument that was being pushed there, right, I realized that the person who's writing this work is. So that to me is academic voice who is talking, right? So it's not merely the issue of talking. Academic voice reflects a lot of things. It reflects how you interpret evidence, right? When you have read a work on a lot of things, on a particular subject matter, what is your interpretation of that in evidence that you have been presented with, right? And how you then position yourself within the debates. For example, I regard myself as a feminist media scholar, right? A feminist media scholar. So, what then will be my positioning in any debates that include media and representation and media and representation? I take the feminist approach that is grounded within the Marxist broad and critical theory scholarship, right? And my argument would be, or how I position myself is that I position myself as a person who perceives the media as uh, doing what regards to symbolic representation of women or of marginalized groups in society. Right? That's how I position myself within the debates of feminism. And how then do you construct your arguments? Right? How do you construct your argument is very important. What is your argument? Right, when we are looking at this evidence that you have, I'm arguing that media perpetuates the patriarchal representation, the patriarchal dominance of women. That's always my argument, right? And how then you challenge existing knowledge, right? With the knowledge that is there, and even though if the knowledge agrees to me with what my perception or my positioning within the debate, how do I challenge that existing knowledge, not just to flow with what they've said, right? This is where you're coming in with existing gaps within the existing knowledge, right? So how readers recognize your intellectual presence, right? That's what I have already explained, that you looking at the kind of work, the people should know that within your field or within the debates, they should know that if they have read your work before, there should be that consistent theme that, oh, this here who's speaking is Moringa, even if they didn't see who that person is. If they don't say it's Moringa was written, they say these arguments that are being pushed here, they are in agreement with what Moringa is always saying. Right. So that's your intellectual presence, and that's how you can be felt as an intellectual within that broader debates of writing. So uh, the question is, what makes this sound like you? Not merely what makes this sound academic. And most people have come across a lot of work that I've reviewed and I've engaged with a lot of scholars. They said, uh, Doc, I want you to assist me to review my work and give me suggestions so that my work can sound more academic, right? And I think that's misplaced. The work should not sound more academic. The work should be academic but sound more like you, right? You write in academic prose, but the work should sound like you. And how it sounds like you is how it comes from how you interpret the evidence, how you position yourself within the debate, and how you construct the arguments and how you challenge existing knowledges. And then this will allow the readers to recognize your presence. And this is how the work should sound like you when you're using AI to write your work. Right then, um, how then one the argument that most people push, and I think I agree with it to a great extent, that AI actually does dilute academic voice. It does dilute academic voice, right? And the reason why it does dilute academic voice is that um, it has a tendency to produce generic writing, right? Because, and we should trace where this tendency comes from, because AI is trained on massive collection of existing text, right? And because of that, it then tends to generate, right, safe arguments because it wants to trade into to trade carefully. Then it generates safe arguments, right? Because it is trained also on Western predominant ideologies and perspectives, it then is lopsided towards mainstream perspectives, mainstream theories, mainstream methodologies and arguments, right? And it also looks at the main views that dominant consensus around a topic or a subject or a debate, right? And also use predictable languages and formulaic structures. That's the reason why AI dilutes academic voice, right? But that's not the end, right? So they are typical AI characteristics, and most academics and supervisors have been using these to penalize students and to highlight that, oh, there's too much AI that has been used in your work. And this, for example, the use of furthermore. Well, I don't agree, because as much as I remember, I've loved furthermore right before if AI was even there, right? It is important to note that, right, this is another common AI text, right, common AI phrases. This study highlights the significance of, right, that's another common AI. Then various scholars argue, right, this is another common AI. So the danger, AI then often reproduce average academic writing rather than distinctive academic thinking, right? So these phrases here, the position, they assist you to position you in how you construct your sentences and how you construct your arguments, right? And how your writing style becomes unique, right? So you would find that people who are using AI, most of their writing style is then therefore been diluted because they're using the similar transition statements, phrases, and linking sentences, linking phrases, and they have become similar, right? And you don't have that leeway to become creative and innovative in how you yourself want to start your sentences, right? How do you want to transition your sentences? How do you want to transition within the paragraph, right? So we have what then a uniform way of doing that, right? So AI then produces average writing rather than a distinctive academic thinking, right? That's what we see then AI doing and diluting the kind of work that we are generating, we are using as academics. So in that process, you then lose your voice, you then lose how you do your work and how you produce your sentences and your structures in your paragraphs in your work. Right. So there's a difference between academic voice and AI voice. All right, and that I think it's very important for us to highlight the difference between the two. AI voice is way more generic, right? And we can predict to say, okay, this is your topic sentence. When you've written your topic sentence, you can have an explanation, and when you are going to link or to explain further, we're going to see furthermore. All right, that's predictable. Then consensus orientated, right? It is important to note that it is neutral, it trades in safely, it is safe, and it summarizes things, right? So that's the predictability of AI writing, right? But now when your academic voice is pushed in, right, or you are fronting your academic voice, what we see is that we actually can pick up personal scholarly positioning. We can pick up that it's you who is talking. Your voice is you're pushing a particular kind of argument in this debate, right? We can pick up context in your work. Your context specific. You are not just bringing in your furthermore. It is important to note you're actually saying, drawing on this argument or drawing on this example that I've put in before. It is therefore clear that this leads to A or B leads to C, right? Instead of you just saying furthermore, it is important to note that it must be emphasized, right? So you are argument driven, you are driving an argument, then you interpreting the evidence, right? And then you have a critical analysis, and then you evaluate. So that's how an academic voice construction is, right? So you're fronting your personal scholarly positioning, then you bring in context, then you have an argument that you're pushing, then you interpret evidence, then you critically analyze that evidence, right? Then you evaluate, right? So the key principle then is that AI tends to explain things, and scholars interpret evidence. So that's what the difference is, and we can pick it up when we read in your work that there tends to be a lot of summaries. I'll give you an example of one thing that most people who use AI don't pick up on, the blind spot, is that every section will tend to have a summary of what they've been talking about at the end of each and every section. Writing a literature review, you do your literature review very properly and nicely. What you see is that there's always a summary of the whole literature review at the end of the literature review, or a conclusion of the literature review. So your paper or your chapter is going to have a conclusion at the end of every section. So you have 10 conclusions in a chapter, or you have 10 summaries in a chapter, right? Or your paper, your journal article has 5 sections, and there are 5 summaries in this there are 5 conclusions in this journal article. And that's an example of a person whose academic voice or scholarly voice has been diluted. But what we should have is that after every section that you have written, we have a scholarly interpretation of the implications of what that evidence that you've presented, what are the implications of that evidence, instead of you summarizing that kind of section. All right, so that's the difference between academic voice and AI voice. And it is very important for us that we need to actually make sure that when we are writing using AI, we need to maintain our voice and make sure that we front our scholarly voice. Right. So a warning signs that AI has taken over your writing, right? These key signs, that the red flags. The moment you sit down and read and evaluate your work, if you see any of these, you should just know that your voice has been thrown under the carpet. You've shoved your voice away. So the first one will be, every paragraph sounds the same, right? There's no clear argument that emerges in every paragraph, and there's a overuse of transition phrases, right? And this happens. There's a transition phrase in a phrase in every paragraph. there's a transition, you are using the same phrase, furthermore, moreover, um, um, together, put together, these, put together, overall. This means, this suggests, right? This underscores, right? That's overuse of the transition phrases then suggests that you've over relied on the use of AI in terms of developing your argument. Then there's excessive summarization. I've already mentioned that AI summarizes everything, right? Every section is a summary. Right, then there's little critical engagement, because what makes us as scholars in academics is how we interpret and critically engage with the study, right? Then there's no intellectual tension, right? We are simply seeing a flow of ideas from other scholars. There's no tension in terms of, I don't agree with what they're saying, or I do agree, or this scholar doesn't agree with what they're saying. We're just seeing a smooth flow, cruising nicely, of the summaries, right? Then there's absence of disciplinary perspectives. What is within your discipline? How do then you locate your discipline in this whole, right? So the important question is that, could another researcher have written exactly the same paragraph, right? And if yes, your voice may be disappearing, right? If AI could replicate the same paragraph that you have generated, right, that means your academic voice might have been disappeared, or might have been lost in this whole matrix. And the reason why I'm saying that is that there should be some uniqueness in your kind of writing. There should be some dominance of disciplinary perspectives in the way you construct your paragraphs, right? Instead of us having a flow of all your paragraphs read the same, right? Well, even without AI, I used to do that. My paragraphs used to be very uniform, right? Because I used a template for writing my literature review, right? A template for constructing each and every paragraph. So it was so predictable to say, after I've written a topic sentence, after topic sentence, I'm going to have an explanation, then I'm going to have sources. After sources, I'm going to have an interpretation of that evidence, then I'm going to have an analytical engagement, then I'm going to have a evaluative sentence in that, right? So they used to be structured like that until one reader had to say, dude, you write like a robot, because it's predictable that how I'm going to read the next paragraph was similar to the one that is foregoing. Right. So that in that process, you have structured your paragraph such that um, your ideas are now, so predictable for the reader as to what they're going to read next. So the reality is that you need to front your academic writing, right? You need to front your your prose, you need to front your discipline, you need to front your intellectual tensions and critical engagement in your paragraphs when you're writing, right? So but the question is, what do readers look for, and what examiners and reviewers actually value when they're reading your work, right? What is it that they're looking for? You might be doing a PhD or master's, or you might be an academic who is writing and wanting to do their publications. So what are we looking for, and what excites the reader? What excites the examiner, right? Reviewers are not searching for perfect grammar, right? And it's I know this is a tough one, because I one of my presentations that I did, I think 2 months ago, I said, when I was reading a book by one Ruth Tomaselli, right, on how examiners and the key things that examiners look for. She mentioned something that made me realize that I think examiners and reviewers have been doing things wrong, right? And why did I say they've been doing things wrong is because when you get a manuscript or a PhD thesis or master's thesis to examine, the first thing that you do is to look for low-hanging fruits. You're looking for mistakes before you even read, to understand the arguments in the paper, the intellectual position. You're actually looking for mistakes. And these mistakes are grammatical mistakes. That's why you see the first thing the person does is to look at, oh, the grammar is not right. They are crossing. You're looking at the punctuations. You're looking at if the citations are cited properly. You're looking at how long the sentences are. In looking at all that, right? And that's what examiners and reviewers has been doing for a long time. And there's need for us to shift from that positioning, because now we are in an age, a stage where you are presented with polished work, where there are no grammatical errors, because the work was produced using ChatGPT. After ChatGPT, then it was edited using Grammarly, and then the work is so clean and that there's no even grammatical error. And if you are biased towards grammar, right, you lose a lot of mistakes in terms of intellectual positioning of the paper, and analytical depth and conceptual positioning of concepts of the paper, because you love reading beautiful grammar. And because it reads well, you think the paper is strong. Right. So reviewers should actually look at the original interpretation of the work, the intellectual ownership of the work, the conceptual understanding and analytical depth and argumentative coherence that is work. And the reality is that strong academic writing is recognized by ideas, not by polished language. And this has been a problem for a long time in terms of examination and academic review. I know one of them, I'm a culprit. The first thing, I'm busy scratching grammar. This is not reading well. This needs to be explained better and stuff like that. Then in the process, we're losing the ideas that the person is pushing, right? So that ushers us to what is the golden rule in academic writing, right? What is the golden rule in academic writing? Right. What is the golden rule? Right. The golden rule is that we need to use AI to improve thinking and not to replace thinking. Right. And these are the things that we should do and the things that I think we should not do when you're using AI. I think AI should help us to generate possibilities, to explore alternatives, to challenge assumptions, to improve clarity and refine structure. If you watch the previous session from last week, Saturday, it's already available on YouTube. You'd see that I made a difference between a person who comes to the party with nothing, right, and the person who comes to the party with their ideas. Right, the person who comes to the party with nothing, they don't have a voice, they don't have a intellectual positioning, they're not pushing for anything. What they're simply doing is that they're coming with a topic and they're going to walk away with a full manuscript or chapter that is blank, that is written with good academic writing and grammar, but that is empty. Right. So the things that we should not do when you're using AI is to allow AI to determine your argument, to create your position, to think for you, and to replace your interpretation. These things I think we shouldn't allow AI to do for us and on our behalf. Because when we allow AI to do that, then we lose our academic voice. We lose who we are in the process. We don't know how to defend the arguments that they are pushed for us. Right. And the reason why we do have the loss of academic voice for most researchers is the issue of prompting. Right. Again, last week I spoke about the one-stop prompt. right? One-stop prompt, the one-word prompt that most of us love this so much, right? And this is called a weak prompt, prompting for voice preservation. So when you are developing your prompt, I think those of us who didn't attend last week, you need to go back and watch that video on how to develop your manuscript using AI, because I had a prompt that I developed there, right? So that will assist you in terms of understanding the difference between weak and strong prompt, right? So when you're writing a literature review on digital governance, you go to the party or to the AI platform and simply say, write a literature review on digital governance. Then you fold your hands, waiting for ChatGPT, waiting for cloud to generate, to go and do the dirty work, to search for literature, to structure the arguments, to structure the prose, the intellectual positioning, the disciplinary from where we're coming from, right? So this then is called a weak prompt, right? Because it is going to mislead you. And I know most people use this prompt, right? It's a lot of people use this prompt. So, but the strong prompt now would be, help me strengthen my argument that local government digitalization in South Africa remains constrained by institutional capacity challenges. Challenge my assumptions and identify counter arguments. This is a person who's coming to the party with an argument and discipline and intellectual positioning, right? And why this works is that the researcher remains the intellectual driver and AI becomes a critical assistant. It simply is assisting you in developing your argument that you have, right? So we need to then build our voice through intellectual positioning. And every researcher must answer a key set of questions. Every researcher must answer, what do I believe in? When you're developing a prompt to write on ChatGPT, what is my position, right? What am I challenging? And what is missing from the current debates, right? And this will allow you to have an academic voice that emerges through positioning. And you say, no, not thorough, not thorough grammar, not thorough vocabulary, not thorough sophistication, but thorough argument. So we say intellectual voice or your academic voice begins by you developing from your argument and from your positioning, from what you believe, from your positioning, from what you are challenging, and from the current, the missing debates in the current scholarship, right? That's how you develop your academic voice. And you need to be aware that not thorough grammar, not thorough vocabulary, not thorough sophistication, but thorough argument that you've developed through you synthesizing and engaging with your reading and with other works that has been done. So what we need to do is that we need to reclaim AI generated drafts, right? So I always say that treat every work that is generated from AI as a draft, not as a final copy. It should be treated as a first draft. So the first thing that we need to do is you need to generate the draft. Then after you've generated the draft, you need to remove generic statements. So this, on those who did what we did last week, if you went home and on a spare time generated the same manuscript. So what you should be doing now is that you need to be reclaiming that AI from generated drafts, so that on that draft that you generated, you need to remove generic statements. Then you need to insert your perspectives. Then you need to add context-specific examples and strengthen critique and interpretation and ensure every paragraph advances your argument. You need to make sure that your argument is very strong and still is being advanced. So a repeatable workflow for turning AI output into scholarship. Every step keeps you, the researcher, in command of the argument. So these 5 steps are very important in reclaiming AI generated drafts. And they are important in that because you are beginning from a draft perspective, remove generic statements, insert your perspective, add context specific examples, and strengthen critique and interpretation in every paragraph, then advances your argument. This is how you can reclaim every AI work that you have generated, and you can do that in every paragraph of your paper, of your argument, of your dissertation, to reclaim what AI has done for you. And because we are regarding AI as a critical assistant, right? And when you've done that, you'd see that even if the work has been done, the main draft has been done with AI or by AI, the fact that you are bringing in context, the fact that you are now removing generic statements, and the fact that you are bringing in perspectives into that kind of work will then strengthen the critique and interpretation of that work, right? So we're saying we need to move from generic writing to scholarly voices, right? And when we do that, we then will be able to maintain our voice, right? So we have the AI version and the researcher version, right? The AI version normally reads like this. It normally reads like, many scholars agree that social media has transformed political communication. Right? That's how AI writes. And the researcher version will be like, while social media has transformed political communication, its influence within South African local government elections remains uneven due to persistent digital inequalities and varying levels of political participation. If you read the two statements, you can actually see that the AI statement is way too generic, and it is not drawing on from an argument, right? The strengths that are in the second statement is that the second version has a context, the South African context, in the local government, right? It is an interpretation. While social media has transformed political communication, we are interpreting, right, the positioning. And what is your position? While social media has transformed political communication and remains uneven due to persistent digital inequalities, that's your position. And intellectual ownership is that the last section is that, and varying levels of political participation, you have positioned yourself in terms of what do you think about this social media within the South African local government elections. So the second statement consists of the context, the interpretation, the position, the intellectual ownership. You've maintained all those, and you judge for yourself on the two statements. The first statement is just saying many scholars, and the question is, who are those scholars? In what context, right? And what is the intellectual argument are they pushing? So I will say to you that the first statement is a generic statement, and it's a generic common AI statement, and that people take as given without them interrogating that statement, without them bringing in their intellectual position, right? So what then is the future of the future researcher in the age of AI, and what is it that they're supposed to do, and how are they supposed to write? Right. And what are they supposed to bring to the party, when we know we cannot deny that everyone is using AI? We cannot deny that cloud AI has made our work simple and interesting. But the question is, what is the role and what is the researcher bringing to the party? The future researcher then, in the age of AI and energetic AI, right? No, we appreciate that AI generate text, summaries, outlines, and literature maps, but we are emphasizing that the humans must provide these key things. Judgment must come from the human, context must come from the researcher, meaning of the text must come from the researcher, interpretation of evidence must come from the researcher, and critical evaluation remains in the purview of the researcher, and this should never be replaced by AI. The moment you replace these five aspects using AI, you have lost your academic voice. You have lost your positioning. You've lost your intellectual positioning, because the key fundamentals of academic writing, you have delegated them to AI. So the future academic success will depend less on writing text and more on directing, verifying, and interpreting knowledge. We need to direct where the arguments are going. We need to direct where the intellectual positioning is going, and we need to verify the drafts, and we need to interpret that knowledge that we would have generated using those AI tools, right? So that's now the new role or the augmented role of a researcher in the age of AI, right? So it takes us to the academic voice preservation framework, right? So there's a framework that I've developed and how we can maintain or preserve the academic voice in the age of AI, and we have it's called the self-check framework, right? If the answer is no, revise, right? But we're saying before submitting AI assisted work, ask yourself 5 key questions, right? When you have generated your draft manuscript, when you've generated a chapter, you need to ask yourself, does this reflect my argument? The first one is, the second one will be, does this sound like my scholarly perspective? I always ask myself, oh, this doesn't sound like me. This is not my argument. I don't argue like this. Have I challenged the AI output? Right? Have I verified all claims? Would readers recognize my intellectual contribution, or they would think it's just AI? If the answer is no at every stage when you're asking these questions, it means that that section or that stage needs to be revised, and you should revise it. Don't be lazy. You need to revise that section, right? So what are the key takeaways, right? The key takeaways in this particular case is that the key takeaway is that the future is not the future is not AI only. The future is not human only. The future is not AI versus human. The future is human plus AI plus intellectual ownership, right? So the equation should be completed. If it is only human and AI, then the equation is not complete. There needs to be intellectual ownership. So we're simply saying AI can generate the text, right? AI can generate the text, right? But AI cannot own those arguments. AI can improve clarity, but AI cannot replace the scholarly judgment. And AI can assist writing, but AI cannot replace academic identity. So, finally, and in closing, colleagues, do not AI does not and should not replace humans, right? In actual fact, it should assist in augmenting the way humans are doing their work. So the most important question now for us and for every researcher is not the question whether AI is used, or did I use AI, or was AI used, right? The most important and imperative question then remains, can readers still hear my voice when AI is involved? Did you hear my voice? Can the reviewer hear my voice? If they look at my thesis that I authored in 2019, right before AI, does it resonate with my arguments or with the way I'm writing now in 2025, right? If there is a discrepancy, a huge discrepancy, then the chances that you might have lost your voice. If we look at the papers that you've been writing before AI, and if we see a huge change in terms of how you're writing, right? The grammar is fine, but we're looking at the intellectual positioning, the arguments. If there is a huge change, then ladies and gentlemen and colleagues, there might be a problem there in terms of you losing your voice. The question is, can readers still hear my voice when AI is involved? This marks the end of our presentation today on how to maintain academic voice when you're writing with AI. I hope you have learned a few things, and I'm going to open this section to comments and those who want to engage examples or experiences that they've had as it relates to the use of AI in academic writing. So thank you so much for your time. I tried by all means to keep it to less than an hour so that we have to go and do other things. Right. So I'm going to open the floor for those who want to comment, who have comments and who want to add some few cents. Right. This is the time for you to share with us what you think. Any thoughts? Any hands? Academic voice? Yes, Sibahle Shando. You can go ahead, Sibahle.
All right, thank you, Doc. Greetings, everyone. Doc, thank you so much for a nice presentation. I really learned a lot. Honestly, I did. Because most of the time we just tend to maybe use AI to paraphrase, to rephrase actually. Then we lost the researcher's voice. So I learned a lot. So, Doc, I wanted to ask, which AI tool would you recommend? One, if maybe we are doing a thesis, we are drafting a thesis, which AI tool would you recommend?
Yes, so there's quite a few. It depends with what you want to do, right? So there's no one size fits all. Well, when you're writing literature reviews, there's what we call paper guide, right? If you're doing systematic reviews, if you want to do a systematic review, I'll recommend for you. There's Elicit, there's Science Space, there's quite a lot, right? When you want to write the paragraphs, to date, I think from my experience, I think ChatGPT still has a strong um, capabilities in terms of generating sound paragraphs and following commands and prompts. But recently, cloud has been on the forefront. The reason why I don't normally want to recommend cloud to students, especially masters and PhD candidates, is that cloud is a capability to generate the entire thesis, right? It has those capabilities, and that's the fear that you then your voice will be diluted. But if you want to do a step by step development of your work, cloud can still do that, but ChatGPT also can still do that. I think those two, if you front them, and DeepSeek, I'm talking from a position of somebody who doesn't have a subscribed version. Cloud can do that, ChatGPT can command that for you, and DeepSeek can command that for you, in terms of generating work without you losing your academic voice. But you need to have strong prompts, really really strong prompts, and that's what maintains your academic prose and your academic voice, right? Yeah, that's my recommendation. Not that I'm selling these platforms, for people. Yeah, but those are my recommendations. But I want to emphasize that the difference between how a platform is used, it depends with the kind of prompts that you're bringing to the party. Prompting is very important. That's where how you maintain your academic voice, right? There's another hand. Thanks, Sebastian Shandu. I hope I've answered your question. Then there's another hand from Stebisile Dlamini. Dlamini, you can go ahead. Then we go to Dr. Teto. Dlamini, are you muted? We can't hear you if you are talking. All right, while Dlamini sorts himself out, let's hear from Dr. Mtetwa.
Yeah, thank you, Doc. Morning, everyone. Just want to find out, I had a very strange experience this week when somewhere, let me just say something. Why would a platform reject taking your your commands, or at least listening to you? What would be the reason for that? Because I had that sort of experience when I was somewhere. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
For example, I mean, if you instruct it to do something, it's just almost like, I mean, it's almost like at a war with you, refusing flatly to assist you. Thank you.
all right, so I'm trying to imagine what the context might have been, right? But there are two scenarios that I want to give. Depending on, remember the AI platforms are trained on the kind of data, right? They're trained on the kind of data, and because they are trained on the kind of data, right? That data has the perspective, or it has ideologies, the way they think things, right? So you'd find that you want to argue for something that is not compatible with the data upon which ChatGPT is trained on. It will fight back, right? It won't. For example, if you want to push I'm not saying that's what you did. If you want to push a sexist argument, right? I know Meta on Facebook, Meta on WhatsApp, right? It is sycophantic in nature. By sycophantic in nature, I say it agrees to any argument that you want to push, right? I've tried it. But ChatGPT and Cloudy, they have a tendency to push back if you want to push an argument that is sexist, that is inconsistent with Western dominant ideologies. Right. So it might push you back in terms of that argument. All right. So it's incompatible with the data upon which it is trained on. And the second scenario is that it's that algorithms, right, upon which this platform is created on, or the algorithm settings on these platforms, right, they are incompatible with the arguments that you want to push, or the information that you want to drive on this specific platform, then you're not going to win. It will push you back, right? It won't generate that information. It will keep on saying, "No, we're not going to go this direction," or and stuff like that. But I'm not sure, I'm not privy to the particular context, whether it was technical, it was qualitative, or it was arguments. I'm not sure. But those are the two scenarios that I'm familiar with. But if there's anybody in this platform who's have had an experience and that they want to explain, or they know this, how what might have been happening better, I think this is the time to share. There is one damn busy.
Right. There was the situation was, the context was that there were two people who were sort of co-authoring a paper, an article. And then one of the sort of the authors, it completely, in fact, it was Claude, it completely refused to assist the person. But when the other guy, the other person who was actually the other author who was also involved in the writing of the book, opened the same platform, Claude, everything just went smoothly. And yeah, the whole thing was resolved that way. But my question was, why would, there was nothing really strange in what they were requesting for, because the same request was made by the other author and it all went smoothly after that. Yeah, that's why I was asking. Thanks.
Oh, all right. No. So I'm trying to think that there was nothing strange about that. So basis upon which a AI platform would resist to engage with the person is the issue of safety and maybe harm prevention, right?
Okay.
So that could be another scenario, right?
Okay.
And another one could be the issue of academic integrity concerns. Some AI system may refuse to requests that appear to involve academic misconduct, right? But which you should have already said now that was not the case. Another one that I can think of would be the issue of copyright and intellectual property restrictions. It might refuse based on you reproducing entire copyrighted book, or you've uploaded someone's manuscript or someone's work, then you want to replicate that your instruction would be, I want to reproduce this article or this book, right? That is a copyright and intellectual property restriction. Then it doesn't it won't, you have problems, right? Providing
Okay.
payroll, general articles, verbatims, right? So you want to reverse engineer someone's work, right? That will give you problems, right? Or you've uploaded a work that you want to replicate, then generating a copyrighted content beyond fair use limits, because it reads all the terms and conditions in the work that you want to replicate or that you want to make reference to. That will give you a problem. So privacy and confidentiality might be another issue again, where AI systems refuse requests that involve, obtaining personal information about individuals, right? Doxing or exposing private details, assessing confidential records, and all those things. Another grounds upon which that I can also think of is the issue of hate speech, harassment, and discrimination, where your paper or the stuff that you want to work on involves all those derogatory terms. Misinformation and fabrication risks also can be another issue that AI can refuse to work on. But technical and capability limitations, right? Some refusal is about the safety, is not necessarily about safety, but capability, right? Maybe the platform that you're working on, or the subscription that you have, I know cloud is limited tokens and stuff like that. So it's some of those things, right? But we need to look at is exactly what might have happened in that particular context, and see why that person was having a difficult challenge to work with the platform. But as much as I know, most AI platforms are sycophantic in nature, right? They tend to agree with you on most of the stupid things that you might want to. Thank you so much. Bongani Mbele, you have your hand up. Bongani, you can go ahead. Bongani, are you there? Bongani? Okay, Bongani, I saw your hand. We can't hear you. Maybe you are muted. I'm not sure is Tlamini still there. Tlamini, yes.
Yes, Prof. Good morning, Prof.
Morning, thanks. How are you?
I'm good, Prof. Well, thank you so much for the very informative session. I don't want to lie, ever since I started joining your platform, my perspective on AI has changed dramatically,
Thank
and it's
you.
working on my favor.
I
Well, I
appreciate
have
it.
a question. Yes, I
Yes.
have a question. How safe it is to write first? Maybe let's say you write your chapter first, and then you upload it on one of the AI platforms and maybe prompt that it strengthens your argument. How safe is that is doing that?
Right. So that's very safe. All right. And that's very unsafe at the same time. So what you do by asking AI to strengthen your argument, that's what AI should be for, right? So it's a good thing that you have your chapter, then AI will augment what you've done, right? It's improving on what has been done, right? Which is very safe. However, what is not safe might be uploading the entire chapter on
Okay.
AI platform. The reason why I'm saying it's not safe is because you have lost control of that chapter entirely, right? That chapter now, the information that you've written there, it now belongs to the whole world, right?
Okay.
It belongs to the whole world. Your argument, your information, your evidence, everything that you've synthesized there, chat gpt or cloud, they're going to take it, that information, and they're going to give it to the next person who prompts anything that is similar to what you have said,
Okay. All
right?
right. Thank you, Prof.
So appreciate it. So it's a good thing to augment and improve your chapters using platforms like this, right? But one thing that you should know is the issue of data privacy, that the moment you have surrendered that chapter to cloud, and I know cloud for effect, it does a good job, right? It does a sterling job in terms of improving work that has already been done, right? It does a sterling job, right? And so does ChatGPT. But the challenge is, if you are at peace with it uploading, improving it without you losing the intellectual ownership of that work, then that's fine, right? But one thing that I always caution is the data chapters. The data chapters, make sure you don't upload the entire chapter. Your presentation analysis, your conclusions and discussions, you'd rather do those things piece by piece, not to upload the entire chapter. Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, bro.
Appreciate it. All the best. Then we have Shadrach.
Thank you so much, Dr. Muringa Tigere, for
Appreciate
such
it.
insightful presentation. Surely I'm gaining a lot. I've got one question. What can I do to prevent my work being submitted to AI not to be dictated by AI by editors? Thank you so much.
Oh, sorry, Shadrach. Can you please repeat this question? What can you do for your work?
Yeah, what can I do to prevent my work to be detected by
Editors.
to have high similarity index and high AI
Okay.
index?
Okay. No, it's fine. Right. So, well, the question is, this work here, would you have written it with using AI, or you would have used AI to improve your work? Right. Journal editors, journals, they don't have problems. They don't have problems with high AI detection. I'm speaking of Q1 journals, high-end journals, right? Your Sage, your Taylor and Francis, your Frontiers, your Wiley journals, they do not have problems with detection, high detections, right? That you used AI. So you need to declare to say, I used AI on A, B, C, D. I do publish in those journals, high journals. I've never had, I don't even bother myself after editing or improving my chapter or my manuscript on any of these platforms. I don't bother to go and want to find out on Turnitin how much AI detection do I have. It's because I have a strong declaration section in my manuscript, right? I declare everything that I did, transparency, right? But how do you detect, how do you reduce high AI detection if that situation is there? You need to do the 5-step framework that I spoke about, to say everything should be treated as a draft, right? Then you ask yourself 5 key questions, right? The first question is, does this reflect my argument? The second is, does this sound like my scholarly perspective? Have I challenged the AI output? Have I verified all claims? Would readers recognize my intellectual voice? If any of the answers is no, then that means you need to paraphrase and rewrite those sections, right? And also, I mentioned the issue of the key phrases that AI uses. It's a simple thing. AI is a common phrases. There are common phrases. The furthermore, the long sentences, the overly long sentences, the repetition, the summaries, and stuff like that. If you paraphrase all those things and rewrite all those things, you will not have problems with AI detection. I've not had any problems with AI detection since I've learned how to maintain my academic voice when I'm writing. So I think that's what you need to do. Number one, you need to declare use, and number two, you need to paraphrase all areas that I have AI traces, right? And all these things you can actually use. There are AI platforms that can assist you to flag all these things. If you Last week I spoke about Jenny AI. If you upload your manuscript on Jenny AI, it will tell you where you've overly relied with AI. it will flag that for you, and you need to go and paraphrase those things. So yes, that's my response to you. But I think we shouldn't be worried much about AI detection. If you watch one of my videos about AI detections, it will actually tell you that those things are so much unreliable. We should rely on human judgment instead. Right. Thanks, Shadrach. I'm not sure if
Thank you so much. We answered.
Okay, I appreciate it. One piece is that a legacy hand is a new hand.
It's a new Doc.
Yes, talk to me.
No, thank you, Doc. We really appreciate the presentation
Yes.
as well. I think I'm covered a bit by, I think it was JBC who was asking which one is the best, because we in the process of writing, we keep jumping from Cloud to ChatGPT to Perplexity to Consensus and all of that. Yeah, but my question, one of my questions is, I wanted to ask Doctor, if you are not subscribed to any, and you are using the free versions, how far can you go in terms of your writing? Do you think that will assist you in the long run, or do you need to subscribe at the end? But the second question I have is that well, we do our prompts on the AI tool, and then we get the output. You then copy that material and put it in your thesis, in your document. Then you start engaging with it, rephrasing, paraphrasing, and then bringing in your voice there. What is the likelihood that the AI detectors will then detect those formatting that have been copied from the AI tool and all the stuff? There are those symbols that come with the AI material and all of that. What is the likelihood that will still be flagged even though you have engaged with the content from?
So the chances are
clear.
the chances are 50-50, right? The chances are 50-50, right? Whether you've paraphrased or you've not paraphrased, right? The AI detection tools, they still will flag you one way or the other. The reason why I'm saying that is because I have a whole 2-hour session that I've taught on why the AI detection tools should be discarded. So these tools are not accurate. They actually detect you more when you write without using AI than when you write using AI. So your chances of AI detection are actually more when you type yourself, right? Especially that you are a non-English speaker. You are not a first English writer. Your chances of getting a high AI detection are higher when you type yourself than when you have used ChatGPT and paraphrased. Right. So the best way to handle this is to follow the 5-step framework that I've said, because AI detection tools are concerned about how sentences are constructed. Academics is concerned about intellectual voice and integrity and your arguments, not the sequencing of words in your text. So that should be kept in mind, right? It's a pity that most of our lecturers, most of our supervisors, and most universities have not come to the party as it regards to the use of AI detection tools. Those things are flawed and they are unethical and they must be discarded, right? The universities must stop using those things. Those things are not accurate. They're not helping anyone, right? They're not helping anyone in any way. So yes, so the idea is to say, go and do the 5-step framework. Be worried or concerned about the argument more and the intellectual positioning more than how the sentences are structured in a paragraph, right? Okay, thank you so much, Wanda. Then let's hear from Z. There's a hand from Z. Then we go to Augustine Ofari.
sorry, Doc, on the free version.
Oh yes,
being
the free
sustainable.
version. Yes, so if you want beautiful things, you must pay for them. The better if you pay for Cloudy, you get the best outcomes. If you pay for ChatGPT, you get the best outcomes. Right? Cloudy released a new version just I think 2 days ago. It's called Cloud Fiber 5. Right? It does wonders. Right? You can't compare it with an unsubscribed version. You get it. So and I'll tell you that research has shown, and I've proved this, that if you take the new version of Cloudy and if you put it and turn it in, it has a less AI detection than the previous version. So the better the version, the less chances of you getting AI detected, because they have improved their platform. Right, so that's it. Let's hear from Z, then we go to Augustine Ofari.
Okay.
Z, are you? Yes.
Good morning, Doc.
Yeah, morning, Z.
I want to ask, how is it safe to paraphrase using ChatGPT? Is it safe?
Yeah, it's very safe, but the question is, what do you want to do with the paraphrased work? Right. If you want to submit it on ChatGPT on Turnitin, right, it might not be safe, right? But if you want to summarize your work for the purposes of improving your work, it's safe, right? But if there is a target ahead of you, which is called Turnitin or AI detection tool, you might be getting yourself into trouble.
Okay.
Huge trouble. Yeah. But it's very safe to write your work, because you are not an English writer, then you improve it using ChatGPT. That's a good way to do things. The challenge is we have an AI detection tool that is problematic, right? And it forces people to lower the standards of their work so that they can pass through the AI detection tool. But it's very safe to paraphrase your work using ChatGPT. Right, Augustine Ofari.
Good morning, Doc, and thank you for the beautiful presentation. I want to look at this AI detection tool. What are the various ones that are available, and how does it work in terms of detecting AI-generated information, so that once we know about them, if you are working, you know how to also go about it.
Right.
Yeah,
So universities are, as far as I know, they are subscribed to Turnitin, right? And Turnitin has an AI detection tool, plugin. It's a plugin for them because it's something that came later. But supervisors and academics are being naughty. They are bringing in their own detection tools into the academic space that are not sanctioned by universities. That's why you see this supervisor here is using Just Done, very problematic AI detection tool, right? Just Done. Then some are using Qbot, right? Some are using Grammarly. Some are using Humanizer AI, right? But one thing I will tell you is that all these detection tools, they can be tricked, right? Because wherever there is a detection tool, there is a humanizing tool. So the detection tools are useless, right? Because I can generate the whole chapter using ChatGPT. Then I go and take it to an AI humanizer to humanize it. And it 100%, it goes from 100% to 0% AI detection when you put it on any detection tools. So the question is, what are we doing? We are cheating each other. We are playing a mouse and a catch and release game We are not doing anything. We are not being academics. We are not concerned about the arguments. We're not concerned about intellectual positioning of the scholar. We are concerned about detection tools and similarity indexes, which are not aiding anything into the academic rigor, which are not aiding anything to the argument, to the intellectual positioning of a scholar. So detection tools can be circumvented. You can avoid detection tools by using humanizer AI. You can use humanizer org. You can use Grammarly humanizer. You can use Qbot humanizer to humanize a chat GPT output and make it 0% on Turnitin, and you pass. But the question is, what was your argument? Was the argument yours? Was the voice yours? Is the intellectual ownership still remains yours? Does it still remain yours? Was the scholarly judgment? That's was the academic identity? That's what is important, instead of us being worried about detections. And I think it is time now that universities just throw the detection tools into the sea and say, we are done, guys. We are concerned about intellectual positioning and arguments. How a person is structured their sentences is not none of our business. We want to see if you've synthesized the arguments and if you interpreted this evidence. That's what we must be worried about, not the 99%, the 25%, the 15% of AI detection. That's what we should be concerned about. Right. So that's my response to you, Augustine Ofari, to say there's a lot of detection tools that are there, right? There's a lot of detection tools. There's also a lot of humanizing tools that you can use if you want to cheat the system, but that doesn't help in any way. Both the detection tools and both the humanizing tools, they are not achieving anything in the long process. They're actually encouraging cheating at the end of the day. Right. Let's hear more. I think we are running out of time. Doc, how is it safe to paraphrase using ChatGPT? We've answered this. Sandile, if I use Meta to paraphrase information from ChatGPT, are they not going to flag it? So you I'm saying you are, when we are the game of using detection tools and paraphrasing tools and humanizing tools is a cheating game. That's why I said it's an unethical game, because it's not adding anything to the academic rigor, to the intellectual ownership, to the scholarly judgment, to the academic identity. It's not aiding anything, right? It's not aiding anything. So we are basically cheating the system. Both the university that is having AI detection tools and the author who's paraphrasing their work, they are all cheating the system, right? Let's see, there's a hand from Cecilia. Cecilia, you can go ahead.
Thank you very much, Doctor. I'm just asking if Doctor can share his email address.
All right. I'm going
for
to
some
put
guidance for future.
Right. I'm going to put my email address into the group, into the
Thank you very
chat.
much.
Right.
All right, Doctor.
Yeah, I'm going to put my email address into the chat. Right. It's there into the chat. Right. It's there into the chart. I'm putting two of them. You can copy. Right. There you go. .co.za. All right, there you go. It's there in the chat. You can access it in the chat. Right. Doc, please, you just want to tick a box and get a degree. They don't. Okay. People just want to tick a box and get a degree. They don't want to. Yeah, that's true. All right. Right. I think we This is really makes me uncomfortable because I want to upload the entire chapter for cleaning. Right. Okay. Thank you, colleagues. Well, Cecilia, is that still a new hand? Is there a new hand or it's an odd hand? Let's just one last time. I'm gonna count from 1 to 5, then we call it a day. Right. 1, we're going 2, we're going 3, we're going 4, we're going 5. Right. Thank you, colleagues, for your time on a Saturday. It's very cold today in Durban. Thank you so much and have a good weekend. If you just have any question, don't hesitate to send me an email. I shared my email addresses. You can just pop in there and I'll be ready to engage with you. Oh, there's a hand. Samson. Samson, is that a hand? Are you muted if you're talking? All right. Thank you, colleagues. It was nice having you in this workshop. Let's meet again same time. Is that coming from you, Samson?
Yes, it's coming from me.
Yes, you can go ahead.
Okay. Thanks for this presentation. Though I came late, and this is my
Yes.
first time of joining the group. I've been trying to join, but the network is not favorable here. Now, my question is just that if I use ChatGPT to write, and I'm trying to turn it into paraphrase it so as to humanize it, won't I still be caught for plagiarism?
So I'm trying to understand. You used ChatGPT to what?
Generate idea to write,
Yes.
now to subject it to similarity index, and
Yeah.
I use turn it into paraphrase it, despite the fact that the similarity index is still high. Despite the fact that I've used Turnitin to paraphrase the write-up I wrote through ChatGPT, what can I do to reduce
to
the
reduce the
similarity?
index? Similarity index, the plagiarism or the AI?
Yes.
The AI index. All right. So I'm not sure if you're listening. I think I've answered this question more than 3 times now.
It came late
Yes.
to the.
Yes. So there's 3 videos, right? There are 3 videos that I'm gonna refer you to go, and I've shared here. I'm gonna share again. I'm gonna share again the videos, right? So there are 3 videos that I explained how you do this, right? But I'm gonna answer quickly again, but I'm looking at time. We were supposed to finish at 11. Then we're still going on. I'm gonna answer, check the chat now. I've uploaded a link to the videos. You can go and look at those videos about AI and detection. But I'm going to say to you, the detection tools, right? They're not accurate, right? What you need to do, if you can still be detected for high AI index after you've paraphrased with your own hands without using any platform, chances are actually very high than when you use another AI tool to reduce the detection. There's a lot of best AI paraphrasing tools that avoids AI detection. I'll give you one example. It's called Humanizer AI with a green head. Right. That tool, it goes any work that you've generated from ChatGPT or any platform. If you paraphrase it on that platform, it scores 0 on Turnitin. 0 on Turnitin. But that's not academically what we want to encourage people to do, because we are not chasing after or against, running away from indexes. We want intellectual engagement and intellectual ownership of the work, scholarly judgment, right? So the universities, they are pushing us into cheating to avoid AI detection. Now, what do? We're going to look for another platform that cuts the process short, like what we are worried about. So go and watch those videos. They will give you a good insight about exactly what you should do. So here, yes, thank you so much. Samson needs to understand the difference between AI index and plagiarism detection in Tinitun. Dr. Ntini, do you want to come in there and give us some some few commentary? I saw you had an hand up.
Yes, thank you, Doc.
Yes,
I understand the difference here.
Yes.
When you use AI for writing, it will indicate that your whole work is about 65, 90%, 80% AI. And yet, when you take the same piece of work to turn it in, it may not score even 5% similarity. So these are two areas which operate differently, but the other may influence the Turnitin. So if somebody is quite aware that they can write with AI, but very little of it can be picked as plagiarism. Yet Turnitin is more interested in having a certain number of words or sentences sounding like the work, looking exactly like the work of another writer. It picks that. And not necessarily everything can be picked or is exactly that when it comes from AI. So there must be some different understanding of this too.
Yes,
thank you, Doc.
Thank you. That's really on point. That's really on point. Thank you so much, Dr. Ntini, for that. I think we've exhausted our time. Simpson, you still want to say something?
No, I'm okay.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much. Cecilia, I see your hand is still up. Are those last remarks? Or
Sorry, God.
all right. Thank you so much, colleagues, for taking time to engage with us on these issues of AI. Let's meet next.
Sorry, Doc, it was a mistake.
All right, no problem. Right, so let's meet next week, guys. Next week, next time, on the same place and same platform as we talk about how best we can improve ourselves in the age of AI and agentic AI, as we talk about all these things and other things, right? Don't forget to go on YouTube and subscribe, right? I shared the YouTube link. Just subscribe for more videos coming in and for more insights coming in each and every week as we move to improve and to write using AI. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of the weekend. Goodbye and see you next week. Same time and same place. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye-bye. Thank you, Doc.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Doctor.
Thank you, Doctor.